Okay, I am going to get started. So thank you all for joining us today. A quick note that closed captioning is available at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions about how to get those working for you, you can put a chat in to Kayla Thompson, who is supporting us on all of our tech issues and also will be in the chat today. So let us know in the chat if you have any issues. Some other reminders, you are muted. Today is going to work a lot like the HMIS admin call 2 weeks ago. If you were on that, we are still in WebEx, but we do not have that Q&A feature that we usually used on the HMIS admin calls and also these LSA office hours last year. So we are going to be doing the same thing as the admin call where we use the chat. You can put in any of your questions to the chat and they will go to all panelists, and that will go to our entire team. No one else will be able to see your question until we answer it and put it back in the chat. So it's a kind of a one directional use. We will also be using the chat to put links as we talk about things to give you the links to find them online. When you are asking questions in the chat, please use slide numbers to help us or give some indication of what was being talked about so that we can answer it if we're not looking at the question immediately next to the slide. We are going to cover a lot today, so we are probably not going to have a lot of time for verbal questions today. So all of our responses will be in the chat. In the future, next week or next office hours will probably be the same, and then the last 2 office hours will be more kind of typical office hours where we open up, we answer a lot of things verbally. So as a reminder, the Hot Exchange website, you can find a lot of these resources. This today will be recorded and posted on the Hot Exchange website. A lot of what we will cover is similar to what has been covered in previous intro calls with your regions and the HMIS admin call. We will be doing an HDX demo today. And we will also be looking at a lot of other key resources that can help you with the LSA. So those updates might have been covered in various pieces across different HMIS admin calls over the past few months, but they will be all in one place today. So yeah. So I'm not going to spend that much time talking because I want everyone else to have a lot of time to give you all the information that will be helpful in this data cleaning process. And the importance of this data cleaning process is because we use the LSA data as part of the annual homeless assessment report to Congress, also known as the AHAR. You can see here at the bottom of the screen, there are 2 parts. Part 1 is PIT-HIC, and Part 2 is also known as the LSA. So we're in the LSA data cleaning portion of we're in Part 2 of the AHAR, and we are in the part where we are doing the data cleaning to make sure that the data quality is as good as it can be for the report. It is prepared by us, the folks on the call today, and it uses data from you all in the various parts of the AHAR. This has been a slide in a lot of different places. You can reference it. It's also in the submission guide, the LSA submission guide, which we'll talk about later. It goes over what's included in the LSA, what project types, what the reporting period is. If you have specific questions about that, you can let us know in the chat, and you can follow up with the reading in the LSA submission guide. The LSA submission guide also has a lot more information about the AHAR and the LSA and the background and its uses. So I definitely recommend following up reading on that. And now I will pass it over to you, RJ.
Hi, so I'm going to do a quick overview of the LSA on HDX 2.0, and then I'll go do a little bit of a demo as well. This first slide is just to show a very high level overview that you have your HMAS that you work on, and you send your data into this website that we call the HDX, and you work specifically in the LSA section of the HDX for this data collection. All right. So when you are uploading, keep in mind that you really want to focus on uploading official HUD review files during this data collection period. So on the right side of the screen, you'll see a screenshot of a little drop-down menu. When you select the upload type, make sure you're only selecting official HUD review files during this period. This is the only time that you're able to do it during this data collection period between now and January 17th. It has a different scope. This is the time where you're going to have support from us, so your review team. Your file is going to be automatically televised, and this is the data we're going to use, hopefully, in that we consider for using in the AHAR in the report. Another reason why it's very important during this period to only upload official review files is because when you upload an official HUD review file, you'll get all of the data issues identified by the system. When you're doing the local use files, you only get a subset of your data issues, your data flags that pop up. So make sure official HUD review file, please, during this period. Okay. Okay, so you're trying to upload your official review file. The first sort of hurdle to get past is you may get upload errors or an upload error as you try to do that review, as you try to upload your file. If you get an upload error, that means there's something structurally wrong with the zip file, and the HDX just can't accept it at all. So here are some of those issues. It could be that one or more of the CSV files has no data, or maybe some of the files are misnamed. There could be incorrect formats, things that it's reading as dates, but they're coming in as numbers, or vice versa. So what happens when you get an upload error? One thing you could do is you might need some help from your vendor because it might be something that's structurally wrong with the file that you can't do on your own without some vendor help. And I'll walk through an example of a case what to do when you get an upload error, because you'll be able to download an upload error report right on the site that provides some input into why that upload error was triggered to begin with. All right, so hopefully you're able to get a successful upload. You get past the upload error hurdle, and now your data set will take on one of these three statuses. So after you first successfully upload that zip file, the resulting data set will be either needs COC review, submitted, or complete. So the default status is needs COC review, because that's the first status telling you that you have your errors and warnings that you can review now. As soon as you're ready to submit the entire data set for our team so we can provide some feedback, you submit the entire data set to us, and the data set status becomes submitted, which is short for COC submitted to review team. And after some back and forth, the review team can mark a data set as complete, meaning we're under the understanding that your COC has done everything you can to limit the errors and address all the warnings. And it'd be great if this could be sort of a three-step process, but it's actually more complicated than just this linear process. And so we have this a data cleaning sort of data flow chart here that I'll sort of walk through briefly. And what happens is, again, you start off with that sort of gray shape, the COC uploads your data, and it immediately goes to need COC review if it's a successful upload. And during that time is where you can review your data issues, which I'll again also talked about how to review your data issues and what to do in the system. But you go from that. I forgot. Can you all see my cursor? Maybe Victoria, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see my cursor?
We cannot.
You cannot. Okay, then I will just okay. I will just say it instead. So you'll start off with where it says dataset needs COC review in the upper left, and then during that period's where you're going to enter some notes and review some errors, and then you can submit the entire data set to our team and it gets submitted. From that point, our team, the review team, can review the input that you put in there, and we can mark it complete, but more likely what's going to happen is it's going to go back to Needs COC review after we've had a chance to provide some feedback for you all. And at that point, now I'm at sort of the lower Needs COC review. At that point, your team can review the feedback that we provided, add some more notes, and resubmit it back to us. And so it goes back to the sort of yellow data set, the yellow submitted status, or you can sort of follow that dotted line in the bottom left and replace your data set with a new cleaner data set, and then sort of start the process again. And there are likely to be more than one time going through this process of either you replacing your upload or you providing more notes and submitting it back to us providing feedback and putting it back to Needs COC review. So there's definitely an iterative process to this. And keep in mind, we always highly recommend that you only replace your upload. You don't delete your upload at all, because if you replace your upload with a newer upload, you won't lose any of the notes. All the notes will be saved. And so that's why we always say replace your upload, replace your upload, replace your upload, because again, that way any notes you would have entered before will be preserved for any warnings that remain in any newer uploads. So again, once you have that first successful upload, just replace it with new, cleaner versions moving forward. All right. So I talked a second ago about reviewing your data issues. When I say data issues, we call these things data flags in the system. So as soon as you upload an official review file, the HDX automatically performs all these calculations and spits out all of the issues that it finds, and it calls these issues flags. And there are two different kinds of flags that the system identifies. Data errors and warnings. Data errors are things that are impossible in the data. For example, the number of adults served is higher than the total number of clients served in the shelter. So again, you can't have a subset that's larger than the full set. So you couldn't have more adults than total clients. Warnings are things that are possible. They're unexpected, but still possible. So maybe the average household size is unusually high, something that we wouldn't be expecting if it's a very high number, but it could be that that's just the case in your COC, that you have to sort of explain to us, what's going on. So let's go into a little more detail there. Some examples of errors. Again, project has client exit dates that are after the project end date. It could be or more recorded households than people, or more units than beds. Again, it's sort of, the more a subset larger than the whole, or things that just aren't possible, having more units than beds. A project has active client enrollments during a reporting period, but no active bed inventory records. So you have to have bed inventory to have have those enrollments. Or you could have zip codes that are zip codes of a project that are outside of the COC state. So again, these are all things that shouldn't be happening at all. So if you're having these kinds of issues, if you find some of those issues are popping up, it could be an issue with the programming of the file of the file that you uploaded. So you may need help from your vendor to fix that. Another thing you could do is if it's a data entry issue, you can use the EVA tool to help you out. And there's also a column in the HDX that gives you a clue whether or not it's likely something that the vendor could help you with. And I'll show you that when I go through the demo. Some warning examples. You could have unusually high or low utilization rates that could use some explanation. It could be a population served by a project that doesn't reflect the inventory reported. So maybe you only served AC households, but all the beds are for AO. Or there could be discrepancies between your LSA data and the HIC data that you submitted earlier this year. The resolution, if the warnings reflect actual data quality issues, then address them in your HMIS as if it was an error, so you can clean it up in there. But if the data is actually accurate, then your COCs have to enter a note into the HDX to explain the issue. That way we'll have a better understanding of what's going on and we'll be able to tell that as we do our review, so we can understand how to address this issue during analysis. So that's what you do with warnings. Okay, so we talked about data set statuses, how a data set starts off as needing COC review. You can pass it to us so we can review the data set. We can pass it back to you, and it can kind of go back and forth, and eventually that becomes complete. But we also have statuses at the individual flag level. So flag statuses are only applicable for warnings, and flag statuses make it clear if there's a next step and who's responsible for that next step. And here are all the different flag statuses. It'll start off as a note as required, because of course there won't be any notes when you first when you first upload and a warning is generated. It won't have any notes. You will not have put any notes there yet. But as soon as you add a note, which again I'll show in a minute, you'll see that the flag status automatically changes to that yellow status of COC added notes, review team assessment needed. So that's a way for our team, the review team, to know that you put something in there and we should review it to help provide you feedback for you. Those next two statuses, more info needed from COC or data, have changed. The more info needed from COC is something that the review team will mark it. If we review your note and it looks like we need a little bit more information, we'll mark it that way. The data have changed would be if you replace your data with a new data set and something about that flag has changed, it'll get marked that way. And then the last three are sort of final statuses for a flag. The first one is if we reviewed your note and it provides enough detail for us to understand that it's not an actual data issue. That's just the LSA data actually reflects what's happening in the community. That's we'll mark it with that status. And then the last two, if we're at the end of the data collection period and it's clear that the data doesn't accurately reflect what's going on in the community, maybe your note says something like, oh, we see that there's a problem here and we're not able to, we're working on a solution, but we know that the data is not accurate right now. Then it would be that LSA data not accurately reflects community, versus the very last one, issue unresolved by deadline. That's a case where we can't quite tell if the data is accurate or not, but we know that that the warning still remains in the system that hasn't been explained with a note, but we're not sure if it's actually an issue still. So those are the 7 different statuses for just an individual warning. All right, so let's do a little demo. So I'm going to share my screen here. Here we go. So I'm going to show my site. Okay, so I'm on the sandbox, which is more or less a copy of the live site, minus a few banners and such. So I just wanted to show this because this would be a case where after you log in, here's the page you first see. It's the official submission status page. You'd see a list of all the COCs that you have access to on the bottom. And you'd see the upload new button along the left side. And then you also have a way of viewing all data sets. So that would include official submission status, official uploads, and also the local use files. So, so in this example, what I'll do is I have access to 5 different COCs, but 2 I've attempted to upload files. In this first one, I'm going to go to ZZ100. You can click into a file by clicking on the file name, but in this one, we actually got rejected. I actually took the file that was working just fine and went in and messed with the start and end dates to sort of purposely get this upload error. And so when you try to upload and you get an error, this is the page you'll see, and you'll see a few buttons at the bottom. If you click print error reports, it'll give you a little bit more detail of what you might want to try. So I clicked on the print error report button and I get this PDF that says your report period parameters are incorrect. For official HUD submissions, the report start and end date must align with the expected report start and end date. So this sort of tells you again, it's the problems with this CSV file, and here's a description. So again, I purposely went into the LSA report CSV and changed up the dates to make this pop up. So if you're getting if you try to upload and you get rejected, try to click on this error report, and that might help explain the issue and help you just decide if you need to. And actually, I'm sorry. You also definitely want to share this with your vendor because they may be able to help with that error. Okay, so again, that was the first hurdle, just trying to make sure you get a successful upload. If you're able to successfully upload, the next thing that happens is you want to review your flags. So I'm going to open up a case where the upload was successful. Now, in this case, there could be some banners that show up on this page, and I have a screenshot of one. Actually, I better stop and change what I'm sharing because I have an example of one banner you might see as you go to your flag report. So let me share my Word document. Okay. Okay. So if you have a successful upload, but you click over to your warnings and errors page, and you see this pink banner, there's an issue with data quality checks on your data set. Please report this issue to your data liaison as soon as possible. That means that there could be there's something about the data set that it accepted it in the HDX, but all the errors and warnings didn't populate successfully. So there's something going on. In this screenshot I happened to take, they had many data errors, 413 and 53 warnings, and there could be more to come. So of course you definitely want to report this to your data liaison, but also it would be worthwhile to at least quickly review some of these data errors or warnings that are popping up. It's quite likely it's the same error that's popping up 20, 30, 40, 80 times, that if you look into that you find a resolution to that one error, it might actually fix a lot of problems, and in which case this this red banner may go away. So again, if you get this sort of red banner, report it to your liaison and review some of those flags to see if there's something happening repeatedly across your flags. All right, another thing that could pop up is you might get a blue banner, and we're going to change the text on this soon. But so if you get past the red banner, you might get a blue banner that just tells you that the system's processing, and it's going to take a few minutes. So the errors and warnings you might be looking at, you might actually get more once that blue banner goes away. So just keep in mind that if you get this blue banner, it's still working. You can sort of you can eyeball your errors and warnings, but just wait for a couple minutes, because once that's done, you'll have your full set of errors and warnings, and it's sort of worth it's to your benefit to kind of hold off and wait for that to show up. Sorry, wait for the blue banner to go away, so all your flags that remain are accurate. All right, let me hop back into the system. Okay. Okay, so a couple of things about this page to note. So once you get rid of once you have no more red or blue banners, you should have, what remains should just be the flags that you need to deal with. Again, so what you can do is you can review a whole list of all your flags. In this case, there are 27 flags. 2 of them have COC notes and no errors in this case. And you can drill down into an individual flag by clicking on the flag ID. And you can leave notes by clicking in the new note box, typing something in, and then click on save. And it'll drop your note into this thread. Anything from the COC will be this sort of tannish color on the left side. Anything from the review team will come in as a blue note on the along the right side. And something new this year is you can also, if it's your most recent note and you haven't passed the whole data set to us yet, you haven't submitted it to us, you can edit or delete your most recent note. So if it turns out that you accidentally put a note here, you meant it for a different warning, you can just delete the note here. There's a button for that. Or you can also edit things as well. So I can save this and then click on this edit button and then click update. And then now it's been updated with the timestamp and all. All right. Other things that are sort of new this year, although I know there definitely could be, there's definitely some new folks here. Something that else is new, you can download your notes, all of them. So in the past, you could download just your flags that would show just your latest COC note, but now you can download all of the notes. So you could download this entire thread of 4 notes to go with this one flag, not just the most recent one. So that's a nice thing to do to just to have it as a backup if you want to have Excel version of to be able to see your notes in one place. It's a nice nice thing to have is this new notes export. Okay, other things, again, there's the replace upload button. Again, I mentioned before, replace after you've had that first successful upload. Moving forward from that point on, make sure you replace your upload. That way, if flag 1139-1 shows up again in that new upload, all your notes will be there. So these notes will remain when you replace your upload, assuming 1139 is still a problem with your data set. The notes will stay there if the flag itself is still there. This is the button you click to submit the data for us to review. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is if there are known issues that our team is working on in terms of programming in the back end of the site to try to get this, to try to fix those bugs, we have a site where we list the things that our team is working on the, it's called our Weebly site. So I'm going to go, this is the live HDX site with the correct banners at the top here. So here on the live site, you'll see a link to the Weebly page. So right here in this green window, you can click on this the Weebly word here. I'm going to click on it and it'll take you to this other page. So this is the Weebly site. It shows this is the space we use to provide general info about current HDX 2.0 system issues. Check back regularly to remain up to date. So the way it works is our team will identify, maybe a CFC will reach out to us, or maybe internally we'll identify that there's an issue with how one of the flags is calculating, for example. So as soon as we learn about that, we post it here under the current outstanding error warning interface issues. So you can read about what's going on, and we list when it gets posted. And then once we're able to resolve the issue, we move it to this bottom section of resolved error warning issues. And we also post when we resolve the issue. So it's key to note that, because if you have, let's say, flag 461 in your data set and you identified that the last time you uploaded was before 1116, it's definitely to your benefit to upload, replace your upload with in the system, because maybe at that point it'll recalculate differently, and hopefully your flag 461, if it wasn't, if it was flagging incorrectly before, it won't show up this next time. So keep in mind again these dates when things were resolved, because if you had uploaded before that date, definitely replace your upload and see if some of these flags drop off. So this is the Weebly site, and it's updated. It's updated regularly. So check back here if you've noticed a flag that you don't think is tripping appropriately. Definitely check this as you're working through your data set. Kiera, is there anything I might have missed here as I went through this demo? I kind of went quickly, but I want to make sure if there's anything you wanted me to cover as well. Missed.
I am going to have this put in the chat as well, but just to answer verbally, someone asked when the ones you're showing on your screen, or you were showing on Weebly, the remaining flag calc ranges, those 1139 to 1198. The fix for those is expected to go out after 5 p.m. Eastern time today. So I would check back if you're on the West Coast, or if you're working late. You can maybe check back Weebly later tonight or tomorrow morning. They should be good to go. Weebly will always be the most up-to-date. If you've reached out to your review team, they might get back to you and let you know when it's up to date too, but Weebly will be updated before, first and foremost.
Great.
Sorry, RJ, I was keeping track of the questions and stuff. In this, did you talk about red banner errors?
Yeah, I mentioned that
Okay.
that's sort of the second hurdle. The first hurdle is the upload errors. Hopefully you get the site to accept your upload, and then if you're getting a that red banner, then it's definitely something that you need to report to your liaison, and also look for any flags that are rampant and repeated across your data set, because fixing those might those might help a lot with getting rid of that red banner and cleaning your data in general.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's it. And I think it's good to reach out. It's good to do what RJ said. There is a situation in which sometimes the red banner means that not all of the flags are generating. So if you do resolve some, if you have 400 and you resolve some, and you might still have 400 because they were able to be kind of pushed through. But as RJ mentioned, the goal, you're still kind of resolving those errors, which will need to be done either way. But reach out to your review team if you have specific questions about that. I am gonna go quickly through the next couple of slides before I pass it over to Victoria to talk about other resources. So just a reminder, this is the LSA timeline. We did just come back off of our holiday break period. So some review teams were working last week, and you might have heard from them, but if you did not, that's because we took that break off. So that week off. So some people are just catching up with all of their emails today. So if you haven't heard from them yet, it might be because they're going through a backlog or coming back from time out of the office, but you should get a response from them. If you haven't contacted your COC yet, it's really important for us to make sure that we have all the correct contact information. We haven't heard from a lot of COCs, but a lot of COCs are uploading and engaging in HDX 2.0. We understand that some people might not need help or have specific questions yet, but to the extent that you could reach out to your review, your regional inbox, your review team in your regional inbox, and just let them know, like, hey, yes, I am the submitter and I'm working on it, have no questions now. That'll just help make sure that we have all of the right contact information for each COC and that people are working on it, because we do keep track of those things to make sure that no one falls behind. So the only other thing I'll mention here is, and again, all of this is in the LSA submission guide. The only thing I'll point out here is you'll notice that on the 29th, this Wednesday, there is a little orange interim benchmark. I cannot stress enough, we've gotten this question a bunch. What happens if you can't meet that interim benchmark, which is to have a successful upload in HDX 2.0? We know there are a number of COCs that don't have a successful upload yet. The best first thing you can do is try. Even if it's rejected, you'll still get feedback on what you need to do to fix it, and that'll help you move forward. There's a number of COCs that haven't attempted an official HUD review file upload. So if you've attempted a local use, you need to attempt an official by Wednesday, so we can figure out if there are any structural issues or other vendor issues that need to be sorted out for you to get a successful upload. And if you cannot, for whatever reason, your vendor issues or vendor code that's being worked on, or your own things within your COC, nothing happens. Again, that is just our goal for you all to get the process started and know what's kind of what kind of flags you're looking at and how many flags you're looking at, with time enough to actually give you time to work on them and fix them before the end of the data cleaning period. So don't wait until the end. Do email your regional inbox this week and attempt an upload this week, and then let us know if you have any questions. And I am going to give it over to Victoria, who's going to talk about a lot of the different resources that we have to help you, including the submission guide, which I have mentioned a bunch, but a lot of other things that if you already have an upload and are starting to try and work your way through your flags, these will be very helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Kira. Okay, so we are going to just take a very brief dive into the LSA submission guide. I'm going to share my screen here. All right. Because, as Kira mentioned, we have a number of COCs that have yet to even attempt an official LSA upload. So if you were to just Google HUD LSA submission guide, this is like the first thing that'll show up on the top of this search list. It is lengthy, I will say, but it has a lot of useful information. And as I said, we're not going to go through this in depth at all. There are just two sections that I would like to highlight for folks here because I recognize that we do have a lot of new HMIS administrators. And again, we also have quite a few COCs who not only have not had a successful upload, but have not yet even attempted to do an upload. So if this is your first rodeo to the LSA, welcome. This is going to be a very useful document for you, and the two sections that you would want to focus on as a newbie is setting up and managing your account in HDX 2.0. So if you need to change your primary submitter or you need to add folks to your account, this will show you how to do that. Please, if you have not yet made any changes to the primary contact, that is something that you should do ASAP because there is a kind of formal process that involves the AAQ desk. So this is something that you will want to go over with a fine-tooth comb and read it a couple of times if you need to go through that process. And then it also goes through in the next section. I wish I could just like go back and click on the table of contents. But the next major section is just the overall overview of the LSA submission cycle and process. So all of the things that RJ and Kira were talking about are outlined in this section, including all of the important dates that we want to keep in mind, including those interim benchmarks. So even if you are returning to the LSA, you're a seasoned LSA submitter, this is still a useful section for review because thankfully the LSA only comes once a year, so always good to get a refresher on these things. So those are just the two major sections that I wanted to highlight in the LSA submission guide. The next thing that I want to talk about is EVA. So you may or may not have heard us mention EVA in a number of other calls. What is it exactly? So it is an open source web-based tool that uses a hashed HMIS CSV export. So again, if you have been with us for some time and you've been doing LSA submissions for the past couple of years, you may remember that there used to be like this Excel document or Excel spreadsheets that you could kind of plug in your HMIS CSV export into, and it would look at your data for data quality issues. So that no longer exists, and instead it has been replaced by this new tool, EVA. Now, you will need a hashed HMIS CSV export. That is different than the export used for the LSA. If you try to upload your LSA to EVA, I'm going to do a quick demo here. You'll get an error message, basically. EVA won't be able to handle that. In general, EVA includes some data quality checks that are described in the HMIS reporting glossary. It's really important to note that this tool was not designed for the LSA specifically, or even for any other type of federal reports. So most of EVA's checks, if you use this tool, most of the checks that you're going to see do not align with the LSA flags. There's way more LSA flags than there are EVA checks. However, there is some overlap between a few EVA checks and some specific LSA flags, and I'll show you how you can find out that information in another resource. But I think one key takeaway here is that if you use EVA to get a sense of your data quality, to get a pulse of your data quality, and you get a pretty clean bill of health from EVA, you really won't have that much trouble with your LSA flags. So I think that EVA is a really straightforward and easy tool for communities to utilize. It's free. No one from HUD is looking at that data. So if you upload your HMIS CSV, when you exit out of EVA, that's it. Like, that data is gone. It's not saved or stored anywhere, so it is very, very secure. And I am really excited for COCs to utilize this tool. So with that said, I am going to share my screen again. Okay, so kind of like before, if you just Google HUD EVA, it is, again, the first thing that shows up on the search list, so very easy to find. This is EVA's landing page on HUD Exchange. There is a EVA Quick Start Guide PDF, and true to its name, it is pretty quick, only about 3 pages long. And it just has some basic outlined information about EVA and what you need to get started. So just wanted to put that on y'all's radar that it does exist, but I will say it doesn't really have any kind of start to finish processes, which is why I'd like to show you the steps that you would take if you are going to use EVA. So this is EVA's landing page. If you click on this button, click here to get started, or even upload HMIS CSV export, it'll take you to the same page. This is where you will upload your HMIS CSV export. Again, it must be hashed. If you are unsure of how to generate a hashed HMIS CSV, you should contact your vendor to get those specific steps, because I imagine that it might look a little different from vendor to vendor. So we can't quite tell y'all how to do that. But once you have that in hand, you will upload it. So I've already done that to save us some time. And at least in this example, and I am pretty sure that some COCs, some of you will come across this. You'll see this section on this page that says HMIS CSV export file structure analysis. And it'll say no file structure analysis issues. I have seen in last year, because this tool was also available last year, COCs will see this and see that no file structure analysis issues are present, and they will think there's nothing wrong with my data. My data quality is top-notch, nothing here to see. And I will say that that is usually not right. The file structure analysis piece is kind of the first line of defense to see if there is something structurally wrong with your HMIS CSV export. So that might look like a file is named incorrectly, or there's a column in a file that is misspelled, something that you as the HMIS admin may not even have control over. It may be on the vendor side, which is why EVA kind of gives this little PSA that says if there are high priority issues identified, contact your vendor. So you could have something show up in this list, but you'd still be able to utilize EVA. Even with a wonky file, EVA can handle that, and she can still look at your data. So I just want to throw that out there. If you get to this screen and you see that there are no file structure issues with your file, 1, congratulations, that's great. But 2, that's not the end of the story. You'll want to move on further into the app. And just to give you an idea, if I were to download this right now, it just looks, it's blank. If there were issues, you would see those listed here, and there would also be guidance of how to handle that specific issue. Okay, so what do we do now that we know that our file is great? You'll want to first check your PDDEs, that's your project descriptor data elements. And this is not at the client level or household level. This is looking at the project level to see if there are any issues at the project level. For this example, it looks like we have a couple of missing geography information issues. There might be some projects with no inventory records. So you can download that and you get your PDDE report. And on the data tab, I mean, this is fake data, but it will give you the organization name and the project name that has the issue. So it is very precise in telling you where this issue is. And then the next piece is your actual system level data quality report. So there are some charts available on this page, but the real nitty gritty is when you download this, right? And you'll get your full data quality report. The high priority errors and warning tabs, again, will give you the organization, will give you the project name, and it will also give you the personal ID, which is really important because if you are using EVA for the LSA, the LSA data is not structured in such a way that you can look, crack open your LSA person file and find client IDs or household IDs. You won't find that in your LSA data. So EVA makes this really easy to track down some data quality issues. All right, I'm going to stop sharing there and move on to the Common Flags Library. So what is it? It's an Excel document that includes flag descriptions, possible causes and resource suggestions for specific flags. And it does not include all LSA flags because there are a bajillion. But it does include the ones that have impacted at least, let's see, in 2020, it was at least 50 COCs. And then we just added some this year. If they impacted, I think, like 20 or 30 COCs. So it now includes 130 errors and warnings. There's an updated resources tab, and there is an additional column for associated EVA checks. So I'm going to share, sorry, I feel like I'm bouncing all over the place, but I'm going to share my screen one more time so we can look at the LSA Common Flags Library. Again, you can just Google HUD LSA Common Flags Library. It's like the first thing that shows up. It is an Excel download. There is a general resources tab. So a lot of the resources that we're talking about in this call are listed here. The Common Flags Library tab has those 130 flags. So it'll look at the actual ID number, what's the description, it gives the plain language description, possible causes. I think the main takeaway here is that this is a lot of information to digest, and I would guess that you probably won't spend a lot of time on this tab. Instead, you'll probably want to use this individual flag lookup feature. So there was a comment in the chat about some utilization flags. So I thought we would use that as an example. So one of the flags mentioned was 1014. It is a utilization flag. It is a warning. The LSA files impacted are inventory and LSA calculated. It's at the project level. We have the full description of the flag here. We also have the plain language description. So two of the key places to look are these possible causes resources, and then the information needed to resolve the warning. So when it comes to utilization flags, one of the things that comes up all the time, especially for this particular flag, because it's looking only at one household type, you'll want to look at your inventory records to see, do those records need to be adjusted? Do they need to be updated? Do they need to be closed out? Maybe the project is said that they were going to serve 10 adult-only households. But then, just the way things shook out, they only serve 2. In that case, it's probably worth going in and updating the inventory records to reflect that kind of change. And some other causes, maybe not all data for this household type may have been entered. Maybe some projects of that same type ended around the same time as the report period began. Or maybe the project began around the same time that the report period ended. There's kind of like that weird interval periods at the beginning and end. And so maybe there were just a few client enrollments, and maybe that contributed to utilization issues. It could also be true that the project type was underutilized by the household type. So in that case, if it is correct, then we just ask that you please describe pretty thoroughly why the utilization rate for that project type or household type was lower than expected. But again, I think for these types of flags, it's usually that the inventory needs to be updated a little bit, usually because like on the ground in real life, there aren't that many projects that say like very specifically, we're dedicating X amount to adult only, and we're dedicating X amount to adult child. It's kind of like whoever shows up is who we're going to serve, right? And so that we kind of find that flux of clients or participants in a project usually necessitates updating the inventory in retrospect. One thing to note, you will probably come across issues that are not included in the flag library. Do not fear. You can look at flag numbers that are close together. And you'll usually find that flags are clustered with similar numbers, and the same sorts of resources and possible causes are usually related. So it looks like this is still a utilization type flag. Or 1017 would still be utilization related, and so this is kind of like where you would want to look to see what are things that can be done to mitigate that flag. All right, I know that we are running a little bit low on time, so I will go fairly quickly on the common issues doc. So this summarizes guidance from the HMIS data standards on frequently occurring data quality issues, and this is just based on the flags that we have seen over the years. The common issues doc is broken up into multiple sections, but the two that we would like to focus on in the next 2 nanoseconds are the sections for project details and project descriptor data elements, and people and household data that's collected and reported in the files with the LSA prefix in the LSA CSVs. So this document has been updated for the 2024 data standards, and the key changes that impact LSA around HMIS participation status and rapid rehousing services only projects, that has been included in this newest version of the common issues doc. All right, so the project details section covers the most commonly occurring issues around project setup with guidance and examples of how to correct those issues. So a lot of the flags that we see generated across all COCs lead directly back to project setup issues. So if we're thinking about this in terms of EVA, that's that project descriptor data element report that we looked at. So the PDDE section is organized by issues related to the project and issues related to inventory. So maybe you have a PSH project with a funding source that does not fund PSH projects, like maybe an ESG grant was accidentally associated with the project. That'll trigger a flag. Or you might have an inventory issue like a residential project in the LSA, maybe there's no inventory associated with it, or inventory that is active during the reporting period. That'll trigger a flag. The document may not cover new issues that might arise related to the data standards changes, but it attempts to predict what those issues might be. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, and the next section is people and household details. So many of the common issues related to people and households also involve project and inventory data. So we just talked about utilization, right? So a project with 100% of its beds dedicated to youth might not have served any youth at all. So that'll trigger a flag. Sometimes these issues require COCs to fix your project or inventory data, and sometimes they'll need to look at the actual enrollments involved in a project. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Issues related to people that don't involve project data. Really common one, not having exactly one head of household. So there may be enrollments that don't have any head of household or might have more than one head of household. There might be enrollments that have missing client location, or formerly known as missing client location. And there might be overlapping enrollments between projects or even within projects. Those three things are issues that EVA can definitely help you narrow down, what projects have this particular issue, who are the clients, who are the households that have this issue. And that is it.
Amazing. Thank you, Victoria. I know a Herculean job of going through all of those so quickly and leaving some time at the end. So the time at the end, if you have any questions, key things to remember. If you have questions, reach out to your regional inbox. There's things in the chat of how to find your regional inbox. If you don't know what it is, you don't know who to contact, you can contact the AQ desk or anyone you know that works on the LSA, and we'll get you connected and sorted. Email your regional inbox this week and let us know that if you haven't already. If you have already and we're already talking to us, that's great. If you haven't already, let us know you have the right people. Let us know if you need help figuring out how to, change your primary submitter. And then attempt and upload official HUD review file upload in HEX 2.0. Even if rejected, that'll still get you on your way to sorting through things. Any upload errors should be sent to your vendor. Well, if they're vendor related, there's very few that aren't vendor related. And then any vendor related flags once you get an upload should also be sent to your vendor and communicated with them. And again, let us know if you have any questions, and we're here to help. This webinar, this office hours recording will be uploaded hopefully by next week, and that email will go out when it is. So you'll have access to this PowerPoint and the questions and answers and a transcript and everything like that, which will have all of the links to the things in here. They were also almost always put in the chat. So if you want to reference anything before then, you can see the HMIS lead webinars on how to exchange. This is a list of relevant things to LSA that have been discussed this year and one last year. I noticed some people were asking for tips from other kind of peers. Last November, ICA did kind of their peer-to-peer tips on having a successful LSA, so you can check that out. I believe the November 15th webinar from this year isn't posted yet, but it should be posted soon. And then there are many more resources that Victoria mentioned, as well as a couple more that she didn't necessarily talk about directly. If you can find your way to the Common Flags Library, there's a whole list of resources in there that you can access immediately before this is posted. So I would direct you to that. And then we have 3 more office hours. We'll have a shorter kind of program for the rest of them, and they'll primarily just be question and answer periods. So if you have any questions, you can bring them here. We will try to answer them if we can during the call. If not, we will follow up afterwards. If you I think we got to all the questions we had in the chat today. So if you have any more questions, reach out to your review team and come to the next office hours. Thank you so much.